How to get started and thrive with Tableau.
Even if you are at 1 on a scale of 10, still there are so many people who are at 0 or maybe in between who are just starting out.
Welcome to the Data Nerd Podcast. I'm your host, Nisar Ahmed. Join me as we explore the inner data nerd inside all of us. Dive into the world of data alongside special guests who not only share their wealth of experience and knowledge, but also unveil what truly makes them data nerds. This podcast is brought to you by Business Intelligence. That's BIZNIS Intelligence. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Business Intelligence to stay up to date with Tableau training and the Data Nerd podcast. Connect with me on LinkedIn or stream the Data Nerd podcast across all major podcast platforms. Welcome to the Data Nerd podcast. Today, I have the honor of welcoming Prasann Prem to our show. Prasann, welcome to the Data Nerd podcast.
Thank you so much, Nisar, for inviting me. I'm glad here for
Yeah,
having this conversation with you.
yeah, no, glad to have you on. This year or 2024, now we're in 2025, but in 2024, I became a Tableau ambassador, and I think I got introduced to you through that. They have that networking event afterwards, and then we got to
Right.
talk there. So it's great to meet fellow ambassadors. Actually, you're a visionary, so great to meet and network with you and have people like you on as a guest to add valuable insights.
Likewise, I think it's a great community, and how we all come together through this community, it's quite amazing.
Of course, yeah, yeah. That's probably the best part about it's not about the title, it's about the people that you
Exactly.
meet, right? Yeah,
Exactly, because everyone sharing that same passion, and then when we talk to each other, like that comes up in our eyes. So that's pretty amazing.
and we'll talk about that passion because I think there's a lot of things we have in common here, and we'll get into that. But before we do that, let me give a little bit of an introduction to those listeners who don't know who you are, and kind of give a little bit about your experience. So Prasann Prem is a Tableau visionary and global leader in data visualization space, recognized as the only new Tableau visionary from India in 2023. Beginning his data journey in 2020, Prasann quickly made his mark with global accolades, including Tableau Social Ambassador, Tableau Public Featured Author, showcasing his commitment to knowledge sharing and mentorship. As a senior BI engineer at Emirates NBD, he leads the development and design of financial dashboards for Emirates NBD. Or that's new business development, correct?
Yes.
Okay. An avid international speaker, Prasann has presented at prestigious conferences, including Tableau Conference 2023 and 2024. Beyond his professional achievements, he's a passionate mentor, coaching over 700 individuals worldwide, and is dedicated to building impactful, sustainable solutions. All right. So does that about cover it all, Prasann?
I think that's a great way of introducing me. Thank you so much for putting it together.
No, yeah. And sometimes you don't even realize until you're putting everything in writing and trying to summarize, you're like, oh, wait, it's quite a lot of achievements and sometimes you overlook them but then and you see this a lot end of year, it's on LinkedIn. People put their end of year summaries together. They're like, this is what I accomplished this year. And as you go through the year, you may not realize it until you're trying to put it all together.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's true.
So great to have you on. And today we're going to talk about some of your experience with mentorship and talk about your Tableau Buddy program. And really, we're going to touch on the topic of, Tableau for beginners. How do you mentor them to really strive or thrive in Tableau? But before we do that, I do like to ask all my guests this introductory question. This being the Data Nerd podcast. I would like to ask you if you are a data nerd, and if so, tell me your story and when you realized you were one.
So if you would ask this question to me back in 2020
Hmm.
or even before that, I wasn't in this space altogether. I used to be a mechanical engineer. But now, if you ask me right now, I
Hmm.
think yes, I'm a data nerd because now everything around me, I think all of that thing in terms of data, whether I am running, whether I am working out, or recently I started picking up piano. So while I'm learning piano, I'm just making those notes like what all the keys I'm pressing. So that can be finally formed in the form of data and I can build a visualization out of it. So now everything revolves around data in my mind and it's quite interesting as well. So I can say, yes, I'm a data nerd.
So when did you realize you were one? Was it like how did you get into that space? Or like when did you realize, yes, I'm a data nerd, this is what I want to do?
I think it was somewhere around October 2020
Hmm.
when I was actually trying to get my first job in the data industry. But apart from this, getting a job, what I realized was I really enjoy building data visualizations.
Hmm.
It's not just about taking the numbers and building some charts out of it, but more than that, how I can build a story, how I can portray what seems to be just numbers to others. I can actually bring them something that is interesting enough and insightful that makes up the whole story. And I felt like, okay, this is the space I think I can go on and it's not going to bore me enough in the future. And it's been now 4 years in the industry, and I still love building data visualization. It's one of my passion now or hobby, also, I can say.
Hmm.
There's a term in the sports industry or everywhere where passionate people work in a particular setting and they call it a zone or flow.
Hmm.
So I feel that inside me when I'm working on a data visualization. So altogether in these years, I think I love this particular field and I'll be here in this field for sure for long.
I love the way that you describe that because I can relate to that. So I've always been in data. I'm not new to data, but I started working in Tableau 8 years ago. And when you talked about your passion, I also, my passion kind of took a different turn. I'm like, I love this tool. And when you talk about the zone or flow that you get in, I can relate to that because sometimes what happens, and maybe it happens the same with you, is when you start working on a data visualization or start developing something, like time becomes like obsolete. You don't even know what time it is. You start
Exactly.
working on it, and then you look, you're like, oh, wait, I just spent all day on this without realizing how much time I put in, but you're just so passionate in putting this together and it becomes kind of like I don't know, a hobby and it's a passion and you really love doing it.
Exactly. Like the flow of time becomes almost slow. You don't care. And it doesn't even comes to your mind that, okay, how many hours you have been in. You are just in your flow. You're just executing it.
Yeah.
So that's quite amazing about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, yeah. So talk about this. So this is interesting because you came from a background where you weren't trained in data, and then now for the last 4 years, you've been in Tableau and you've really thrived in that space. Okay, and now you're teaching others, and I'm guessing you're leveraging some of your own experience to
Mhm.
do that, and you have this Tableau buddy program, right? And so, can you talk about the Tableau Buddy program and how it came to life and what it is?
Yes, I think I never thought that Tableau Buddy program will be recognized and so many people will be participating in it. The whole idea of starting this program was because when I started, so many community members, ambassadors, like if I have to take names, there are so many people.
Hmm.
So like they already they helped me, and I think that was one of the most important point that I believed. Okay, this is the space I can actually thrive as well as I can improve myself. And when I got this help from so many people, I just realized that, like me, similar to me, there are so many people who are new to the industry. or who are also doing this career transition like me, and they might not know the exact people who they need to reach out. So with an intent of just being a helping hand, I started this one-to-one mentorship so that I can at least give some pointers. And the whole ideology behind this was, and that I really quote everywhere, is like, even if you are at 1 on a scale of 10, still there are so many people who are at 0, or maybe in between, who are just starting out. So even if I don't have lots of experience, still I think everyone can help others with whatever they have, because it feels so less for someone, but it can be a lot for those who are starting. And that's how it all started.
That's I couldn't agree more with that. Um, some people are fear putting themselves out there because they think they don't know enough or they don't know everything. But at the end of the day, you will never know everything, right? So that
Exactly.
means you'll never be ready. You just have to put yourself out there, and as long as you know more, you have something to offer. When I started teaching, I didn't think I was ready for it. But then once I started teaching, I'm like, I realized that yes, there is something I have to offer. There's some experience there. Um, but for you, like you really, I don't know, for you, I feel like it was a rapid transition from getting into Tableau, just being somebody who's learning it, and then just turning around and now teaching others, right? How did you know that you were ready for this mentorship role? Because to be a mentor, you have to have some experience. And if that experience doesn't, some people think, oh, I need to have like 5, 10 years of experience to be a mentor. That wasn't the case for you, but you were still able to provide this mentorship. How did you know like that you were ready to really start mentoring?
I think the greatest gift of doing this comes from the data farm community itself, because there's one thing I realized, or I already seen it, that even if I don't know so many things,
Mm,
there are lots of people who are really pushing great content. If I have to name few, Ken and Kevin Florledge, they have a great website. Then Andy Cribble is there. They have lots of great videos. There's Tableton. So I already knew that there is a whole lot of great content out there and information that is useful. So it's not mandatory that I should be knowing everything. One of the problems that anyone who is learning faces is where or in which direction they should point. So I just realized that I don't need to know everything, but I can actually show them the direction. I can be that helping hand. That's how the name also came in, Tableau Buddy. I'm not trying to be a mentor or
yeah.
expert or a teacher, but more than a helping hand so that I can guide them. Like, for example, if somebody is coming to me with some use cases around Tableau Server, if I don't know about it, I don't have to just talk in that way that I'm an expert. I can actually refer that particular person to that other expert who knows about that. And I think that's how it's all about leveraging all the information that is out there, and that's how I initiated it.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's so many resources, especially in the Tableau community. Um, I'm self-taught in Tableau. Are you the same? Did you go through some formal training, or are
So
you?
when I decided that I should pivot into some other field from being a mechanical engineer, I actually took a whole course of data science and AI, and I
Mm,
learned almost everything,
mm,
like SAS, R, Python,
mhm.
deep learning, neural networks, all of that. But and there was a piece of Tableau as well. So I got the fundamentals through that particular course. However, after that, it was when I saw Tableau Public for the first time. I think that's where it started picking off. That okay, I can see how people are doing things, and the best thing is you can download them, reverse engineer them, and that's how I picked it up and started growing more.
So that you chose Tableau because that kind of resonated with you out of everything you learned, right?
Yes, because what I realized, because uh, if we talk about our life,
Mm,
generally, if we look at to our past as well as all our experiences, I've noticed that it's all kind of stitching up together. it might not feel that it's all connected at one point, but I realized that I was always into design. That was something I always loved. And then this mathematics and also design coming up. And then if you stitch it all together, you can build a really good piece that you enjoy as well while building. So I think that's where I actually realized that this is something that is supposed to be called as my calling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But so is that what you advise others, or when you try to mentor others, is um to find your space that you're comfortable with? Like try everything and then just focus on one thing and become really good at one thing, or should you know a little bit about everything?
I think while mentoring, I've realized that I shouldn't push my ideas or my thought onto someone.
Hmm.
First, one of the basics of mentoring someone is to understand them, what their goal is. Not everyone is out there who is a Tableau geek like us, or who wants to just build business dashboards or visualizations. So I always try to understand what's their intent. So many people are there who might not realize it, or they don't know. So I generally advise them to actually have a holistic approach over it, at least have SQL, Excel, and a BI tool. if
Yes.
if you if you like Tableau, eh, and I always recommend Tableau because it has a great community. It has Tableau Public where you can actually get inspiration, build things. So always take that holistic approach. And then there are some mentees of mine who are very specific that okay, we saw Tableau Public, we want to build something like this, like information design, and we want to get into this space. Then this is a different approach, a different route I'll recommend.
Yeah. Um, so this Tableau Buddy program is focused on getting, so I noticed based on your post and seeing what you've put out there on Tableau Buddy, you're looking for people who are like really new or novice beginners, right? To get into this program.
Yes, that was my intent. However, I have spoken to so many industry experts. I've also had conversations with VP of some companies who were actually at a senior leadership position, but they were new to data,
Mm.
and to get them what can work for their team. So altogether, I've had conversations with a varied level of experiences. However, the I think the most number of candidates come from those who are starting their journey.
And this could be people who are already working as a professional in some other capacity or other type of
Mhm.
role or industry, right? They just
Right.
want to get into data or into Tableau or data visualization.
Right. There are so many stories. I remember that they were actually in a different space. They wanted to switch to data and data visualization. And in these calls, what I generally propose is to have a 3 months roadmap, because in the courses out there, people talk about you do this course in 10 days and then it's all done. It doesn't work like that in the real world. It's more about, rather than looking at or viewing different YouTube videos, it's more about practice, and that's what I always recommend. So I think yes, to your question, there have been so many people that are from different industries that were trying to pivot.
Yeah, because I get that question too when I teach people Tableau. Is
Mhm.
they ask me, should I take Tableau certifications? Is that what I need to get a job? Personally speaking, I do not have any Tableau certifications.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Uh, I let my work uh, speak for my skills, my experience, my projects, and things of that sort. Now, somebody who's new to Tableau and may not have that to leverage, do you think that's the best route is to take that certification? Or do you still think that creating your own portfolio, your experience, even if it's not paid experience, is
Mhm.
best route to get into into or get a job or get into the role as a Tableau developer?
So, to this question, I almost say never
Hmm.
to go for a certification.
Why?
Because you can, because there are so many question banks also. If you go to my website, we created a good question bank that is being used, that has been already used by so many developers, and they pass the examination. But that is not the intent. Maybe you get that certification, but then you won't be able to thrive in an interview setting altogether. So
Mm,
it's not that helpful. It's an I take it as an additional verification that can be with you once you know Tableau. So I always recommend everyone to work for, at least if you are very new to the tool, if you are just starting up, still spend at least 3 to 4 months, get familiar with the tool, build some projects. The biggest thing we have is Tableau Public, and it's free. So leverage it, build a good portfolio. And then you can actually take that certification, because then it becomes much more easier. And to add on this, because I came from a different background, and I can honestly tell you I cracked more than 10 interviews
mhm.
just by showing my Tableau Public portfolio.
Yeah. Okay, if I'm somebody who's hiring and there's a candidate that can show me their work, that would impress me more or show me more of what they're capable of doing than saying, oh, this person passed Tableau desktop certification, right? Okay, fine.
Yes.
I feel like that certification is good, and maybe it means that you know the content, or maybe you're good at taking tests, but how do you apply that skills? How do you apply that now? Because a lot of Tableau is about, like you said, like the design, the thinking behind the thought process on how you're going to visualize, how you're going to tell that story. That's a hard thing to test.
Exactly.
I don't think you can really create a test to really encapsulate your that type of skill set.
That's 100% true. Like, uh, since the time and at my current organization, uh, while we are hiring now as well, and the first thing is to look at Tableau Public, and then we follow it with one of the use cases.
Hmm.
So that's true. Like Tableau Public and having the portfolio not only is giving that impression that you know things, but it's a credibility. It validates that you have experience, even if you haven't worked in a professional setting. Still, you know how to build things. That is more important in this real world right now.
Yeah, yeah. And even if like you said, you don't have to be working in a professional capacity to get this experience, right? Like just so much free data out there. Find a hobby,
Right.
find something that you're interested in, and then create a Tableau public dashboard to showcase those skills, right? So
Exactly.
it's very, very easy thing. Well, I won't say easy. I'm saying it's it's easy to get started, and find the data that you need to start working in Tableau, right? So
Right.
let's suppose I'm a new student, or I'm somebody who's interested. I'm listening to this podcast. I'm like, oh, I want to get into Tableau. I'm interested. Okay. With based on your experience, if I and as a mentor, or running this Tableau Buddy program, what advice would you give me, a new user? Like, what should I do? Where do I start?
So I'll go back to your one of the questions that you asked earlier. So one of the thing is to know about how this person is feeling and what is the intent. So
Mhm.
most of the mentees or candidates, whatever name I would call it, the primary goal is to get a job. So I always recommend to at least have, if you're really passionate, you can go into the space where you are doing fancy visualization, or we call it information design. So we can go into that space if you are really passionate enough. But if you don't have that passion, or if you don't feel like doing these fancy charts or bespoke charts,
Mm.
then for business dashboards are a must in your portfolio. So for that, I always recommend there's a community challenge that was started back in, I think it's been 3 years. That's called Real World Fake Data. It has almost like 10 to 12 data sets from various domains.
Hmm.
So that is a great place to pick up a data set that's almost relevant to what the KPIs can be. And then the best part about using this data from this particular challenge is that now if you go to Tableau Public and you just search for a keyword RWFD, then you will actually find so many dashboards that has been built using the same data set. So
Hmm.
now you have the data set, and then you have inspirations as well. Because when we are starting, the problem is generally around the thought process, that how we design it, what will be the KPIs, how do I structure it, what will the layout look like. But now if you have the inspiration and then the same data set as well, you can actually bring it together and build your own thing. So that is something I always recommend for people to start, because even if you follow this path for 3 months, you will
Yeah.
have at least 3 to 4 or 5 dashboards that can be really good to showcase in your interviews.
Yeah, like you said, those business dashboards is what will resonate with um, the when you're applying for jobs, right? They see, oh,
Right.
this is something that they've built, and we can use something like this.
Hmm.
And for me, when I started in Tableau, I um, I started with the business dashboards as well, but I also did not know the best practices necessarily when it came to design. How did I learn that? I learned that this is what I did. I like my first dashboard in Tableau. I knew what the problem was. I knew what was needed. I just didn't know how to put it together. So what I did, at that time, I bought that big book of dashboards, right? And I went
Right.
through all of the different ideas and visuals, and I took pieces and components of different ones. I'm like, I like this from this dashboard, and I like this from that one. Maybe I can put these all together and make it my own.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's probably the best way to not just get creative, but get ideas. Whether it's
Mhm.
from a book or you go Tableau Public and you just search, um, or you just do a Google search. It doesn't even have to be in Tableau. Give me
Exactly.
ideas for this industry dashboards, and then you pick and choose, and it's not plagiarism. It's you're taking inspiration from what other people have created.
That's true. I think that is how I have learned as well as grown in my data space, to take inspiration from others, taking that design ideas from maybe Pinterest or Google or
Yeah,
Behance. There's so many places. Once you start learning and you have that zeal, I think it's the information is always already there. It's more about like you want to reach out and make that happen.
yeah, yeah. And I subscribe to the Viz of the Day. Right? And so
Mhm.
every day in your inbox, you get like a visit of the day, and those always spark, some ideas sometimes when you see that. Um, but again, they're not all. Some of them are really creative, right? They're not all necessarily business type of dashboards, right? So some may suit you more than others, but they're all still great, great ideas that are sparked, and Tableau does a great job in kind of promoting that the data from the community involvement, working together. This program that we're both part of, right, as Tableau ambassadors. Why do you think they created this group? It helps
Mhm.
them and it helps us, right? It helps us
Exactly. Exactly.
because it creates a network of Tableau users, Tableau community members, data fan members who are um, striving towards the same goal and now working together, networking, and then also promoting Tableau.
Yes, I think one of the best things about data fam is like I have friends all across the world now.
Yeah.
I I can be anywhere now. Once I came to Dubai, I didn't have so many friends, but I knew so many data fam members that were already here, and we started hanging out. Like it's all about like how things are being connected through the community, and I think Tableau has done a great job in this part.
No, for sure. When I think about it, I probably make more friends in the virtually through the data fam Tableau community than I do maybe at my regular job at work. just because
That
the opportunities are there, like they're made available. There's Tableau user groups, right? Or just even just being on LinkedIn. That's where most of my connections come about, right? Like just the amount of content that's out there that you learn from people. It's great.
exactly. I think LinkedIn and also Twitter slash X,
Yeah.
like it's a great place. And now the thing is, we all talk the same language. That's data. So
Mm.
the pain points and the problems, everyone come across these things once in our journey, and that really helps.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So, what advice would you give? Maybe so we talked about new users or people who are trying to get into Tableau. But what if
Mhm.
you're already somebody who's experienced with Tableau and the Tableau skill set, and you have a job where you're good at developing Tableau dashboards or telling that story or whatever it may be, and
Mhm.
you're thinking about becoming a mentor. What advice would you give to those people?
I think one of the first thing I always suggest is to do not think whatever worked for you is going to work for your mentee as well. That's one of the first thing. And about mentorship, what I've learned is it's not about the skills, or it's actually not about how much great you can make them in their technological skills. Because if we are talking about these intermediate or professionals who have been in this industry,
Mm.
one of the problem is self-doubt, what we talked way back in this conversation, right? So what I've seen with these type of individuals who are already have been in the space for some years, they are actually, they know things, they know what to do, they know that they might need to build a portfolio, or they might need to do some workout Wednesday challenges, but they aren't doing it. And as a mentor, what it acts as an external voice that helps them push further. So it's more about, rather than telling them what to do, it's more about to let them realize that you already know things and I've got your back. So try this, and if you feel that there's a problem, if you are getting stuck, then we can work it out together.
Mm.
Then actually builds that bond. Also, there's a they anyone feels that support, that okay, there is someone who I can reach out without any hesitation. Because lots of people think that, okay, if I message someone on LinkedIn or Twitter, what do they want to feel, or are they going to reply back to me? So it happens, everyone is busy. I also might not be able to answer to all my messages. But the thing is, what I learned was, back in my days, like, let's say I reached out to 10 people out there. I know, like, this is more like being optimistic. I'm a very optimistic person.
Mm.
So even if I'm reaching out to 10 people, at least two of them will be replying back to me, and I'll get something out of it. Or even if not, at least I should be forward looking. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And I think getting that help bridges and also solves that problem.
Because you don't have anything to lose by reaching out to people. What's the worst case scenario? They don't respond. Okay, then
Exactly.
just move on, right? Like
Right.
you can't have hurt feelings doing this, right? It is what it is. You're never gonna get 100% hit rate on on these things. Um,
Exactly.
and so you just have to, you probably will look back and have regret in not trying than having tried and maybe not succeeding, right? At least you gave it a shot.
Exactly, because if you don't do it, then it will be always in your mind that, okay, I should have or I would have. But if you do it, it works out, then fine. Otherwise, you can move on.
Yeah. I see this common theme that you talked about as asking you questions. You always try to focus on the the personal journey. Like what are they
Mhm.
trying to achieve? And what I really liked about what you said was don't think that everyone should have the same, like your story is not their story. And so you shouldn't give everyone the same advice that this is how I did it and you should do the same. yes, the way that you did things, maybe you've learned things and there's things that you can advise based on success and failures. But everyone has their own journey, and everyone will come to their own place on you know, on their own, right? And I think that is probably um the most important part is like everyone has their own journey. Not everyone gets to the same point the same way.
Exactly, because it's also about like we're humans. Apart
Yeah.
from if I take out this data space and all these conversations we talked about, at the end, being a human, we have our own challenges. Maybe there's a family problem, there's a financial problem. There are lots of things that affect an individual. So taking that whole idea about what they're feeling, where they're at, and then guiding them. Because let's say somebody is already having a job and then they're working. I know a person who was working almost 12 hours a day and then also wanted to pivot to Tableau. Now, it was hard for him to spend at least 2 hours, maybe a
Mm.
day to learn Tableau. But then for such a person, it can be maybe you can sit around, but there has to be a sacrifice. But at least if you can make out time 2 3 hours in on the weekend, that can work out for someone. So it's all about like how all these situations, and then through that you can force a bridge out of that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. People ask me like, so I have a regular day job where I work, you know, whatever, 8 hours a day. But then I
Mhm.
also teach, and then I do this podcast and I have YouTube videos and like a lot of other things I do on the side. And people ask, how do you have time for all of this? But here's the thing, you make time if it's something that you love doing, right? Like
Exactly.
you'll find that time. Some people on their free time would like to sit down and watch TV or watch shows or watch sports. I'm not saying I don't do that, but then sometimes you sacrifice a little bit to then make time for other projects that you want to do. And so I think people sometimes find an excuse not to do things, and then they're just okay with that. But if you really want to do something, I think you can find the time.
Yeah, as you said, I think it's all about priorities.
Yeah.
What do you place for you? What is first or second? I think for the last 2.5 years, I was mostly working. Like I was having a full time job, and after that, I was doing these mentoring sessions. I was also teaching at some universities.
Hmm.
So it's all about like where you want to place yourself in the future. But for that, you have to work now. And right now, this year, I actually took a step back from LinkedIn as well.
Okay.
Uh, I wasn't doing that much of interaction because uh, it's been going good, I wouldn't say. So I started learning piano. I started learning a bit of salsa. But again, it's in my mind. It's hitting always. Okay, there are other things all also. Like these are good that I'm starting to learn and I love it. However, if I have to go forward, there are other things I have to prioritize as well. So it's all about the mindset, what you want to do with this, with
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
time.
When I started this podcast, okay, so I'm in season two. What happened was I started in early 2024, and my goal at that time was to come out with one episode per week. By the time it got to the summer, I decided to end my first season and I needed a break. I'm like, it just, yes, I love doing it and it's something I would do again, but it just, it came to a breaking point where I was just spending too much time doing it and I needed a break. So I took that summer off. And then when I came
Mhm.
back in the fall, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come back with season two, and I still want to do this podcast. I still think it's beneficial. It's still something I enjoy doing, but let me ease off on, the once a week criteria, and maybe let me just do every other week, do bi-weekly, and I'll still produce the content. And so I reprioritized, and I still have this out there, but there are other things in my life that I wanted to prioritize as well. And that's okay, right? It's like
Yes,
you don't
exactly.
always have to be 100% in on everything. You make, whatever time you have, you allocate towards it.
Right. I think altogether, whatever we are working and we are growing in our field, one of the things is to enjoy our life as well. So we
Of
need to
course.
carve out that time to spend our time with family, friends. If we want to go on a trip, I think that's important too. Uh, I used to write one post every day. Like at the night, I would always write one post for the other day.
Yeah.
But I think starting almost last year, August and September, I thought more about like, okay, I can carve out some time. Maybe I can't push content every day. Like I've started feeling burned out. So I took that space and it's fine. Now I'm again getting back to it, but I don't think I'll be doing again every day because it's all about priorities, right?
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah. Um, and I see a lot of people talk about that, one post a day, um, and whatnot. And I do post on LinkedIn quite frequently, but once a day for me, I think I know for myself, I think it would be too much,
Mhm.
asking, getting myself to do that. But I know like last year you gave a talk on a Tableau conference about social profile, creating your social identity, right?
Right. It was actually a great experience also being at Tableau conference and presenting for the first time. And the topic was how to become a Tableau influencer.
Yes.
The term got coined there, and it was there was a mix of two topics. So along with me, I had one of my Tableau Visionary, Adrian, as well. So
Mm.
he talked about how you can actually leverage Tableau Public. And I was talking about how actually LinkedIn helps and how you can strategize and also some of the hacks. Because for some people, it's also about like getting that interaction and getting that boom that what pushes everyone. So it came all together. And I think it was a great session.
Yeah, no, it was great. I had actually attended that session, so I
Wow,
really,
that's
had
great.
some good takeaways there. So it was great. Hopefully I get to see you next year again in San Diego. And I plan to attend, and hopefully I'll get to meet you there in person. But this has been great. Before we end off, do you want to tell people how they can get in touch with you? Maybe talk about if they're interested in looking up information on your Tableau Buddy program, how they can do that as well.
I think for that, LinkedIn is the best place. If you can go to my profile, there are already links in the featured section
Mhm.
where you can actually find the space to go to the top mate. It's free. There is no charge. There has been never any charge, so it's free of charge. And it's a 30 to 45 minutes call, and we can always have a conversation. And if you don't have that time, you can also message me. Just ping me on LinkedIn. That always helps. So I think that's the best platform anyone can reach out to me.
Perfect. Great. I'll put out the link to your LinkedIn profile here in the show notes so that people can reference that and reach out to you. So, Prasann, this has been great. Great conversation. Love the topic, and we'll chat again soon.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.